welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. I'm Stelio Satsaki, CEO of One Business World. Leading Entrepreneurs of the World features entrepreneurs, founders, and business leaders presenting on cutting-edge topics and the latest industry developments. Today, we're very pleased to welcome leading entrepreneur, Rebecca Pan. Rebecca is the founder and CEO of Trellis, an innovative and pioneering workspace environment and experience. Trellis is San Francisco's newest workspace where ideas flourish, and it is a wonderful environment for all founders, entrepreneurs, freelancers, and professionals looking for a beautiful, flexible space to power out their work. Rebecca, we're very excited to have you here with us today to hear more on collaborative spaces as vibrant communities. Welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World.
Thanks so much, Stelios. It's great to be here. So I'll give you a little bit of background about me. I got my start in New York City in 2002. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania and had a lot of customers that were in the initially food and beverage and then workspace industry. So that helped kind of get my start of understanding what workspaces were and how important they are to building vibrant communities, or how important they can be. Back in 2002, there were Regus and office suites, and there was a lot of corporate veil over what was happening with, you'd be in a workspace and you would pretend that it was all yours, even if it was a 40,000 square foot space and you were an individual business owner. And so there was a lot of kind of corporate veil of, is this all yours? Are these meeting rooms all yours? And you'd kind of pretend that it was. And that was fine for that time period. But as things evolved, since 2002, there started to be this thing called co-working. Co-working started in 2006, 2007, when a couple of pioneers started thinking about, why are we hiding? Why are we trying to make it all just smoke and mirrors when what we could really be doing is actively collaborating and actively communicating and actively building vibrant communities. So I got involved with co-working in 2009, which was, quite early in the industry, because my graphic design firm needed a home, and I was really excited to collaborate with other creative professionals. So that was kind of my entree into like formally working in the workspace industry. And I've never looked back. I began my co-working career at a company called Next Space, which you may have heard of. It was an early pioneer in co-working. I helped grow them from 1 to 9 locations across the country. And then in 2014, I branched off to start my own entity, which was called Covo, which is amazing. And that's where I am now. Well, I'm in that space. I'm not at that company anymore. And we kind of worked really hard to move the real estate focus from being mostly on white males, which is, the industry, to a more inclusive environment. As a female business owner, that was really important to me, and it was important to my co-founders. So we started there with Covo. We launched in 2016 and had early success. It's gone very well. We expanded to a second location in St. Louis, and unfortunately, COVID killed it. Not only because it sounds like COVID, But because we were doing so many events and had such a vibrant community, and then when COVID hit, we lost 80% overnight and could not continue operating. However, we were able to partner, and this is something that I want to talk about for this presentation, kind of the new models that are happening. We were able to partner with our landlord and do a new collaboration with him. Instead of our traditional lease, we kind of exited the lease that we had with Kovo, wound down that company entirely, and then we spun up a new company called Trellis, which is beautiful co-working. We have a coffee shop, we have a bar, we have an event space. Right now, those things are paused, and we'll spin them up more fully when there are people to serve. But the co-working, we launched officially May 1st. We are already at 42% capacity. We are requiring vaccines starting June 1st, which is a little bit controversial, but members asked for it very strongly, and 100% of members have been vaccinated and will be been inoculated and will be fully vaccinated by June 1st. So we are we're looking at it from the perspective of creating vibrant, diverse, inclusive, equitable communities, and doing so in this new normal, which is really crazy. I had a meeting yesterday with somebody who hasn't been in an office in a year and a half, and that kind of shell shock that he experienced, I think, is something that is going to be really common. So as we start to come back to communities, come back to offices, come back to this sort of environment that is so great in so many ways, you know, an office is where you can often be your most productive, focus, do collaborative work. It is shifting. It's shifting from how it was, that's where you did all of your work, and occasionally you could work remotely from home. And now we're seeing a lot of companies that are offering either complete flexibility like Salesforce, or serving customers and employees like Google. And they're finding that 60% of employees want to return to the office that they were at before. 20% have moved and want to return to a new office. And to return to the office at Google, you need to commit to being there at least 60% of the time, to have your own office, your own dedicated space there. For the other 20% that are opting to be remote, that's new for Google. They did not used to allow that before the pandemic. And they are allowing, you can drop into offices, but you don't have your own dedicated space. So we're also starting to see kind of, and then Apple wants everybody to come in, wants everybody to get vaccinated and come into the office. So those are kind of three of the big tech companies and what their workplace strategy is at the moment. And it's been really interesting running a community and a co-working space where we're attempting to build community and connection, but people are scared. So that's part of why we're requiring vaccinations to help ease that fear. We do have 30 plus safety measures, including masking and distancing and sprays, like sanitization sprays all over the place. And that's kind of what we're seeing as what this new normal is going to look like. Something else that we're really seeing is the type of work that people want to do in an office has changed dramatically. While it used to be that everybody came into the office and that's where you did your work, and then you went home and that's where you lived your life. And sometimes you could do some remote, and sometimes, you had some sort of a hybrid environment. What we're seeing now is people really want to be at home unless they are doing collaborative work. And that's not across the board. Some people just really don't work well at home and don't want to work at home. But we're seeing for our audience, the people that are here are either people that have a home situation that's not conducive to work, their partner or their roommates make it impossible to be on calls, or whatever the circumstances are. But that a lot of people want to come in to work collaboratively. They only want to be in the office when they're doing like concentrated teamwork. And that's something that is super different than what we've seen before. At our co-working space, we have private offices, dedicated desks, open seating spaces, meeting rooms, and they all got a lot of use. And what we're seeing more now is people asking, is there any way that we can kind of hot desk offices so we can come in for a day but all be together and it be in a dedicated space? Can we potentially share an office with a few different companies and kind of like a car share? Because we don't anticipate being in there all the time, but we would love to be in the office one or 2 days a week. So there's a lot of interesting options that are coming up that are different than before the pandemic. So that's something that we're seeing as like really the bleeding edge of workplace strategy. That's the main trend that I wanted to share. We're also seeing a lot of people just love not having to commute or not having to commute as far. So co-working, we anticipate, is going to increase in popularity.
You're saying some wonderful things, Rebecca. Active communication, active collaboration, active, vibrant communities, and a more inclusive environment as part of the overall experience, right? And then everything that you guys are building with Trellis. And definitely love the enhanced experience of a workspace with a coffee shop and a wine bar. So creating a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive community. And of course, everything we learned from the pandemic, right? And health measures and cleaning protocols that need to be in place. So it's quite a challenge, everything that we have all experienced during this past time period. How do you see the model evolving in the future, even let's say further? What do you think is going to be the new normal? And of course, everything that you're saying, but even more. If you could share with us your thoughts.
Sure. I'm seeing the trend. I think I'm so glad that the stigma against remote work has kind of been eliminated, because workplace flexibility is a huge benefit to employees. That sort of flexibility, it's a big part of talent retention. And the millennial generation is so much more interested in flexibility and the experience than in, they're more incentivized by that than their paycheck or exactly what their paycheck looks like. So I think we're seeing a move towards flexibility like we've never seen before. And real estate needs to meet that, which is so different than where it's been historically. So like our partnership with our landlord, I think, is a really good example. We actually approached him when we were Kovo in 2015 about a management agreement, an operating agreement, where we would design and develop and run this co-working space, but it would be more of a revenue share model. And he was not the least bit interested. He was just, he's just wanted the regular, you do a lease, you do you, I just take your money. This is not a collaborative effort. And I think the pandemic has really sparked, it's been heading in this direction. Management agreements have been becoming more and more common for co-working spaces and co-working space operators. But the pandemic has really jump-started that demand, and landlords are seeing that there is more upside for them as well in a partnership agreement. There is more risk, but it's also sharing the risk, which is something that feels more appropriate for where we are in the world, that things are getting more transparent, blockchain, everything is, there's not the same kind of smoke and mirrors that there used to be. So I see that trending a lot as well, that there will be more co-working operators in partnership with building owners, more building owners kind of putting skin in the game to see a higher return at the end of the day. I think we're gonna see co-working on every block. I think it's gonna continue to expand. I know WeWork's kind of meteoric rise, and then their whole situation hasn't given the industry the best reputation. But there's an association called the League of Extraordinary Co-working Spaces, which is a global association of kind of the best in class co-working entities around the world. And that's something that I think, that sort of association of independent operators that are connected and supporting one another and supporting one another's clients, I think that's going to continue to strengthen and increase. Those are the kind of the main trends that I'm seeing. I think traditional real estate, the lease structure, it's just not what anybody's looking for anymore.
And you see, with given, let's say, everything that, again, we have seen, and the fact that a great deal of the business tasks and the productivity tasks and communication, right, can be done through digital means, right? Mm-hmm. What would you think, for instance, how do you feel that a hybrid model, like, for instance, I recently noticed that one of the major players in the field seems to be increasingly following a hybrid model and actually focusing on events. So let's say virtual events and in-person events. So whatever you might need, we have the space for you. Mm-hmm. How do you feel that, given that all sorts of tasks and we can perform through the digital means we have available to us, how could we make the most out of the available space and the co-working spaces? And so you have a wonderful in-person experience, let's say at Trellis, with productivity, but at the same time, a coffee shop and a wine bar. And then for those who need it, because as you said, some people might need it, some people might not need it because they can do their work remotely, mm-hmm. Right? So how could you possibly combine the both to make the most out of both experiences, with Trellis being the centerpiece of mm-hmm. attention for both?
Yeah, I think having really flexible membership options so that we can meet people where they are. And we have an hourly drop-in. So you don't need to be a full-fledged member, although you will need to show proof of vaccination at this point. I think that in the day, the hot desking and day offices and different ways to support companies that kind of want that ultimate flexibility, that want to connect with their team 1 week a month or connect with their team 1 day a month, but do it in a really intentional way. I think that's how we're going to see a lot of companies start to operate. And hopefully they'll take those cost savings of not having that same real estate footprint and invest more in their employees. And that's not maybe what the real estate industry wants to hear, but I do think that that is going to be, it's going to really benefit companies and employees. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard about, everybody's really focusing on mental health these days. There's so many more mental health resources, partly because the pandemic brought along a lot of anxiety and depression, but it also kind of forced us to look at how we were working before, which was everybody was just running at breakneck speed. And the pandemic has given a lot of us kind of a bit of a break and an understanding of maybe we don't have to run that fast. Maybe we don't have to go to that many events every week. Maybe we don't have to have our whole team commuting, an hour each way to connect, when there are things that we could be doing remotely and save a lot of that time. So I think we're going to have a much more flexible world, and it'll be our job to make sure that it's equitable.
And with all of the commercial space and all of the office space that has become available, right, as a result of the pandemic, would you say that this could also be seen as an opportunity for an expansionary strategy, let's say by a company like Trellis, by what you lead? So meaning that there is a lot of space available. So given that the Trellis concept is an appealing concept, it could be seen as intriguing for many of the landlords who, because of remote work and the digitization of all sorts of business processes, may have empty space. So by collaborating with a company like Trellis, they could see that as an opportunity themselves, but also Trellis as an opportunity to engage itself with available office space and expand even faster.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we would consider. We've actually been approached by a couple of groups that franchise, that think that our concept is a very franchisable concept. As there's also this trend in multi-use buildings that have residential but are very amenity heavy. So that's another area where co-working, especially Trellis's concept of co-working, because we do have the coffee shop and the bar, it's a good amenity for large residential complexes as well. So we're also seeing that. One thing we get a lot, which isn't very useful, is like, I have 1,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet or 3,000 square feet. There, the numbers don't really work. But for a large enough complex, if we're able to do like minimum of 10,000 square foot floor plate, then it can self-sustain, and that's obviously appealing to building owners and landlords.
Sure. And Rebecca, let's say for all of those entrepreneurs that have been affected by the pandemic, they have been starting initiatives that have been promising, but then suddenly affected negatively by the pandemic. What do you feel you might like to share with them, in the sense, how can they keep on going and making sure that they don't get discouraged with everything that we have been faced with? And of course, optimism for a better future, and everything's going to be okay. But what would be your thoughts? from your
I think it
journey?
really comes down to resilience. You know, like we had to close Kovo, but we saw an opportunity to spin up a new entity with our landlord. And I think a big part of why we were able to recognize that opportunity is a resilience mindset. You know, like we made sure to get enough sleep, to take care of ourselves, to do those little things that are really important to maintaining that sort of optimism and mental strength that you need to be an entrepreneur. And it's so easy to get caught up in the like the achievement, the work, the, you know, like trying to get everything done all at the same time, which is never possible and is always exhausting. But there is an opportunity, especially with this kind of new recognition of how important mental health is in this post-pandemic world, or soon hopefully to be post-pandemic world, that we had that opportunity, and we can stretch those muscles and strengthen those muscles, just like when you go to the gym. Resilience is something that can be built and built upon.
Absolutely. Well, look, Rebecca, thank you very much once again for your time and for your participation, your presentation as part of the Leading Entrepreneurs of the World series. Congratulations on all of your success today. And we're all excited to continue observing everything you do and admiring the growth of Trellis in California and not only. Thank you. And we look
Thank
forward.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Be well.